Call the meeting to order. Good evening, all. I'm sorry for my not being there today in person. Promise to be there at the next one. So, excused. Well, first of all, we have a couple meeting. Is there anybody that's not there? It's hard to see here. I think we have Terry's not here. Any other call-offs, Steph?
No, just Ms. Shields.
Okay, thank you. So we have one excused member, and then we have quorum. So because we did not have quorum last month, we have a couple, we did not meet in August, so we have our September minutes that need to be approved, and again, our September, so we have July and September minutes that need to be approved. So let's start with the September 7th, or the July minutes. Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Thank you, sir. Second?
A second.
Okay. All in favor? I'm sorry, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the July meetings passed as presented, and then now we're going to move to the September minutes. So do I have a motion?
Motion made.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Alrighty. So the outline for today is the board business followed by case review, and then for folks in the audience, or if there's any online, if you would like to make public comment, they'll be received at the end and may be limited to 3 minutes. So I'm sure there's a sign-in paper there at on the table. So if anybody wants to sign up, please do so. I have no reports myself this month, but our executive director, Ms. Pixinger, can you give your report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members. It's great to be back in person, isn't it? It's been a long time since we've been in here. We wish you were here, Dr. Gershio.
4 years, I think, huh?
Yeah,
At least.
yeah. But here we are, and grateful that we can be here, and appreciate the hospitality of City Council for allowing us to use their room. I want to extend a congratulations to our solicitor, Mr. Alec Wright. Is Alec on? I can't see that far.
I don't see him yet.
Well, our solicitor and his wife have had a baby, and so he is not here in person tonight because they are taking care of their new infant. He will be online though, so if we have any particular questions, we can hold them for him, and I'm sure he'll answer them, although I can't imagine what they might be. You just never know. That's why we have a solicitor. Mr. Elwood, you will remember Investigator David Elwood. He's been with us for, about 5 years, Dave? Yes, ma'am. And he's left us. He has moved over to the other independent body in the city, the Commission on Human Relations, as a field investigator. And we wish him the very best, and with deep appreciation for all you did to enrich the board's work, for the camaraderie, the bad jokes, and for generally just being a part of the family. And you know, we joke about it, but it's true. Once you're in, you can never get out. So we appreciate your new endeavor and wish you much success with it. And if we can be of any support, you'll please let us know. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Our intake report for this month, year to date, we've received 186 complaints. That's about on par with the previous 3-4 years. In 23, we closed out 227 complaints. 22, we had 232. In 21, we had 227. Which was the lowest, although now it's tied with 23, but that was the lowest. And then in 2020, we had 287 complaints. So we're about on par to be in the same general area at the close of 2024. Last month, in our casual conversation among members that were here, we acknowledged that the rude and discourteous hearing, which has become a bit of an annual or every two a biannual event, we have two cases that were referred for inclusion in that class. We did think you might want to continue doing that at your December meeting so that we can invite those two individuals, those complainants, to come and share with you their story as to why they came to us in the first place, so we better understand why they sought your assistance, and we could have some discussion and better understand why their cases were not outrightly dismissed or moved forward to a public hearing. It's an opportunity for them to let you know why they came in the first place and how they were left feeling after their engagement with the city police officer. So if that's acceptable to the members, we will invite those two individuals to the December 3rd meeting. We don't have anything else on the agenda for that meeting. We did invite, and we're awaiting confirmation, that a representative from the Office of Community Health and Safety will come and present to you what their mission is, but we don't anticipate that. We know they're not coming in December, so perhaps in January they will be on your agenda. Otherwise, we at this point don't have anything else on your agenda. We had some discussion at the last meeting about the use of automated note-taking software, things of that nature. And we had a discussion about what forms a quorum. And prior to that, we did have some discussions as to what constitutes a permissible purpose for an executive session and what parameters go around that. I wanted to just clarify that under the Pennsylvania Open Meetings or Sunshine Act, a quorum does require the defined quorum presence, meaning in person. Now, in person or remotely, but participating, that all members who are forming that quorum can hear everything that's going on and they can contribute to everything that's going on. That except for physically being present, they are otherwise present at the meeting. And that establishes a permissible quorum. Recording of our meetings is certainly, we record them and we post them publicly on YouTube and at our website. And any member of the public is permitted under law to record a public meeting. So when we get requests from OtterBots or things of that nature, they're certainly permitted to record your meeting. There was a question about that. But if one of our members was using that for the purpose of establishing attendance at a meeting, that would not qualify as creating a quorum. They have to be engaged. Agenda in 2021, I believe it was, Governor Wolf did sign some amendments to the Sunshine Act. And they're minor, but they're important. One of those requires that the business agenda be posted no less than 24 hours prior to a meeting. That's a public meeting. And that the other part of the amendments was deliberations that members cannot deliberate and make decisions in the shadows. That has to be in an open forum. So you can't discuss a business matter of the board and come up with what you're going to do before you have presented and had that discussion in public. Those were the two major amendments to the Sunshine Act. Otherwise, it remains the same. The purposes for executive sessions, although that has been restricted somewhat, and court decisions have restricted that a little bit further. But for example, discussions of personnel matters conducted in an executive session, the individual whom is the subject of that discussion in an executive session, whether it's an appointment, a disciplinary action, a termination, an employment action. That employee has certain rights, and they do have the right to request in writing of the deliberative body to have that business discussed in public. Now, previously, you could generalize and say, well, we're going into executive session and have your discussion and come back out and tell the public, well, you had a discussion about an employment matter, and that was the end of it. The intent of the amendments was to take a lot of what happens in the shadows back out into the sunshine. So that was one major change that was articulated within the ordinance or the statute. And the other had to do with decision-making, but it was related to higher education and wouldn't have anything to do with your work. But we have certainly copies of the Sunshine Act if anybody is interested in it. You can also do a simple search online for the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act and find these things out. There is a position that I mentioned Mr. Elwood has vacated. And the usual procedure in the city is if you have a vacancy, then that vacancy, the job is reviewed for its remaining appropriate in terms of tasks, duties, requirements, etc. Upon approval of that, it is posted. That position for CPRB investigator is posted currently, and it will be open until October 31st, after which we will receive a list of applicants. We will pursue with reviewing their resumes and applications, etc., conduct interviews, and make a selection and make it an employment offering through the city Human Resources and Civil Service Department. And that's how all vacancies are handled. There is a little bit of a controversy right now in the city related to the status of our chief of police. There was to be a press conference this morning, a media opportunity for the chief to answer some questions, but that was canceled, and we don't know exactly why. Not that it necessarily matters. The issue itself is whether or not Chief Scarato will be able to attend to his duties as chief of police in a full-time, 24/7 capacity. He has informed the public that he wishes to return to officiating basketball games, the Big Ten. And he loves it. He loves it. He's always loved it. Everywhere he's worked, he's had some ability to officiate and referee these games. He apparently had an agreement with the mayor that if certain indices of crime were reduced or changed, that they could revisit whether or not he would be able, and that the mayor would condone his going back to refereeing in some capacity. Well, apparently the homicide rate has declined to the extent that the mayor feels it's time to revisit that, and felt that Chief Scarato could engage in the refereeing again. He apparently was cleared to referee 65 games. The months of the basketball season are limited. I think there's only like 5 months. I'm not real sure about that, but you're talking about a compressed time with a large number of extracurricular events. So right now, that's the controversy. Is this become a moonlighting that's questionable and takes him away from his primary duties as chief of police? The current situation with the numbers of police officers, they're kind of short right now. Morale is not great. Is this the time to be moving to a different level of the chief of police attention to the Bureau? He did create, years ago, there had been for many years a deputy chief position. That position was eliminated. They have restored that position and appointed an assistant chief to the position of deputy chief. the understanding is that deputy chief will step into the chief's role when the chief is absent from the city. Recently, there was a need to cancel officers' vacations and a need to put them on 12-hour shifts. They're tired, so the morale is only more of an issue that boils up. So we don't know where it's all going to go. Certainly, we have no insight to that. That's just advising you that this is a contemporary controversy, that follow the news and you'll find the answer as soon as we do. But whether or not public confidence is affected by this is truly the major concern for us. People need to feel safe. And I believe, Madam Chair, I am willing to take any questions or comments or discussion, whatever it may be, but that concludes the formal part of my report anyway.
Ms. Bissinger,
Sir?
as it relates to the chief of police, I didn't get it clear. I saw on the news about this, but was there a date listed? I believe it was Councilman Anthony Coghill that wanted to do a post agenda on this.
Yes.
Was there a date provided for that?
I don't know if a date was set yet.
Okay. And I do have concerns. If the original agreement of Larry Scarrato was to be a full-time chief and not taking any part-time job, especially during his duration of his employment, it's a great concern, especially because he has made major changes during his tenure. And then with the uptick in violence in the downtown area, it's just a concerning issue as far as officer morale, to your point. But overall, would we be making these exceptions if this was a general officer within the Bureau, especially after hours have been shifted? Stations have been shut down at night where people have to use a blue phone in order to file a complaint. So just an overall, comprehensive, I think, answer rather than, we're agreeing to him refereeing games in whatever state that he wishes to go to. Just needs to be a more clear answer, and I hope that they provide that to you.
I can't agree more with you, Mr. Davis. I think that the timing is really very poor. If you look into history, it teaches us about the future. Refereeing for this particular individual has been a problem in the past in terms of interfering with work and his choosing to referee. I think it's his passion. He loves it. So maybe the time to make a decision that he wants to go and be a professional official, or he wants to be a full-time chief of police, one or the other. I think the people of the city of Pittsburgh expected that. I think that the promises they were promises at the time, you're right. The public was told by the mayor and by the chief that he wasn't going to do any refereeing, but they didn't tell us the little caveat that they claim now, that it was agreed, well, we'll see how the crime rates go, and if there's a decrease in violent crime, then we'll revisit it, and then maybe it'd be okay for the chief to go and officiate and do his refereeing. But we didn't, any of us know that? Did the public know that? No. The public believed that he was hired to be the full-time chief of police with contemporary best practices at hand, with a lot of ideas and a very real heavy sense of accountability for the outcomes of the changes that he was embarking upon with the Bureau. Right now, we have a very unstable organization in the Bureau. I refer you back to the letter that was written by the FOP president in August. I think everybody received a copy of that. If you didn't, we can provide a copy of it. The allegations contained in that letter paint a very unhealthy picture organizationally. That there's a contract in place that people, given that it is a collective bargaining unit, that this is what the rules of the road are, this is how we're going to, your terms and conditions of employment, that they trust that that's what it means. If you read that letter and you actually observe some of what's happened in public view, those rules are not being abided. that further feeds into poor morale and the uncertainty of the work environment. Remember, there was discussion about moving the officers to 12-hour shifts. They moved to 10-hour shifts. I mean, here, we're short-staffed, right? We're short-staffed. Every time you take someone and give them a 4-day work week, you have lost 1 day of their ability to fill a shift, to provide service. So we move everybody to 10-hour days and we wonder why we're short? We don't have enough personnel to do some of these things. And then in the midst of it, to hear that perhaps your leader is going to just, go part-time, which I know they say that's not the case, but presence is part-time. So when we learn more, we'll certainly share it with you, but you'll probably see it in the media before we know of it.
Beth, I didn't see any of the news today. I mean, the last couple of days. But is the mayor saying that he was unaware of this contract, that if rates go down or homicide rates go down, is the mayor denying that now?
No, I don't think so. I think the mayor is saying affirmatively that he and the chief had discussed the possibility of his returning to refereeing, and the contingency was depending upon the crime rates. If the homicide rate dropped, then according to what the media reported today, the mayor said they would revisit that. And the mayor felt that the homicide rate had in fact decreased, and so it was timely, and the chief wanted to go back to refereeing, and the mayor said, well, the crime rate's down. That's what we said would be okay for you to go and do that then, and he stood by that, and apparently that was where the consent from the mayor was for the chief to resume officiating. And remember, this only came about or was discovered because there was a video of our chief officiating a basketball game in Michigan. So.
That's correct, yes.
So just as a comment, I mean, other than in the spirit of how this is transacting, given some of the history of him coming on board and just in the spirit as you described, the city reserves the right to manage, and he's stating he's using discretionary time and to such point or such time where it might hit something that hits unethical or against the rules. I mean, we really don't have much in our purview to be able to speak to other than expressing, as the board members may do just in public, some of their concerns about it. It wouldn't even fall to us until it reaches some of those thresholds, because he can manage that given the context for which they're saying and operating. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm saying for our responsibilities, other than verbalizing some of our concern, which is wise to do with some of the other stuff that's happening, we really don't have much by way of input to reach some of those benchmarks.
I agree with that too, Mr. Williams. It just creates a lot of commotion, and we don't need that. Anything else that I may answer for you? Okay, thank you, members. Thank you, Dr. Gershio.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a stay tuned. Like Sheldon said, the mayor has his right to manage, and then when it becomes an issue, then would come to us, I would think. Thank you. Alrighty. So, is there any old business before we go on to new? Hearing none, we're going to go to our new business. Mr. Davis, there's going to be a presentation on the proposed changes to the board's operation procedures. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. Beth, you have the calendar for next year for our meetings?
Yes, the proposed meeting calendar was distributed in your packet, And it sticks to the traditional scheduling of meeting the fourth Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock, except for August that you take off and combine the business with September. And for November and December, those meetings are combined and meet the first Tuesday of December. Now, the locations are always to be determined depending, and we hope we can start to be back into person again on a regular basis. I don't recall, are we odd or even for zones this in 2025? Stephanie? Are we odd or even for 2025's? Even? So that would be 2, 4, and 6. Zones 2, 4, and 6 is where we would try to schedule your board meeting. Typically every other month, but we would be here for the other meetings. And of course, we now have the ability to be remote as well. Thank you.
So we'll do those Zooms, and Beth, do we still have those relationships with those senior centers in those districts if we needed those?
Yes.
Oh, cool, all right. So if for the new people, many a time we meet, when possible, if there's a senior center in that district. So in some of those districts, there's multiple, but
Yeah.
we can move forward. But it'll be great to have us back,
Yep.
at least try to do every other. You know, I know in the winter months, it might be behoove everybody to do them remotely, but as we go towards spring and summer, and next fall, we should consider being out in public. I think we owe that to our, to
So-
members of our
So Dr.
communities.
Gercio, if that's the case and members are all fine with this proposed schedule, I think we've reviewed it, and we're not conflicting with any holidays or religious moments. Then at December's meeting, we will offer it to you for a final vote, and we can adopt it and then publish it in the regional media.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Davis, you have a presentation of some changes to board's operation procedures.
Yes. Well, I will say that I do apologize. I do want to make an amendment. They're not proposals. These were ideas that I was speaking to our solicitor right about, that he had asked for us as a board collectively to speak about these suggestions and our ideas before they even get to a proposal state.
Ready? So, with that caveat, would you like to begin to, your first, idea?
Are we, am I reading it or reading the responses? I just want to be clear.
Does anybody need them reviewed, or do you have them in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a copy. And
Pass a copy down to me. I have notes, but
I think it's local.
I wasn't able to hear, so.
Was there?
Members, do you want to go one by one?
well, I think that this was also distributed via email. And is it necessary for us to read through? If the board members are you aware of all the recommendations? So having to read them, I think if there's discussion on the particular items, it might be wise to have the discussion, because he's moving these recommendations for a proposal if it's acceptable by members of the board. So I don't know that we need to read them in totality, because I've read through them. So if there's discussion about them, plus also notice in the remarks from our executive director too, as to the response to some of these things. So, if there's questions, because to me, some of these things seem like they're satisfied based off of what current practices are, And if it's not satisfactory to the board as to what the responses are, I think that's worthy of us saying from your recommendation and what's currently happening, if that's not satisfactory, then there should be discussion on that from the board members to be able to move forward. So that's just a recommendation on my part. I've read the recommendations from Mr. Davis. I've read our executive director's responses, and I'm willing and ready for discussion on these matters to see if it is satisfactory as what was provided for us, or if we want to endeavor to know more, to do more. Be wise use of our time.
Yeah, I concur as well. I guess I would ask Mr. Davis, the responses that Ms. Pittenger gave, did any of those satisfy any of your ideas on there? Like, are any of them like, this one's not an issue anymore because I see how this is being addressed? Or did you still have some ideas that you wanted to present on each of those topic areas?
Yes, I was very satisfied with the answer that, during one of our executive sessions, it was stated that the executive director did not have an annual evaluation. And so one of the concerns being, the nature of this entity not having an evaluation, was a concern. And that, again, an idea was to bring forward. So I was very happy to hear that that happens between the chair and herself. Again, yes, Dr. Grucia?
Yeah, the chair does meet with the executive director annually, so I just wanted to make that clear.
Yep. The creation of the subcommittees was the thought of utilizing all board members' talents. As we all come from different backgrounds in life, we're all always appointed here, no matter how we got here, for the executive director to utilize all talents in the areas, but understandingly that they may go up against the rules and procedures of the city of Pittsburgh as far as how they go about changing. So I was also satisfied with the executive director Pittenger's responses. The only real thing I just want to follow up on is the community outreach plan. I know what was stated by the ED. I just didn't know if we ourselves as an entity had an outreach plan independently of cooperating with other organizations and attending their meetings.
Did you phrase it? What was the question in there?
If we had ourselves as a CPRB had an independent plan outside of obviously working with community partners, attending their events to get our information out, but do we ourselves have a plan independent of that as far as a community outreach?
I can tell you what the last 25 years has been, the position of the board, that in your neighborhoods, in your interests, you go to whatever community event you want to go to. The caution that this board has always adopted, though, was to protect your objectivity, impartiality, and all that sort of thing, and not be caught into fraternizing or being in a position that somebody could turn around and say you were not objective. And so the board members have gone to events. They don't say they're not a board member, but they don't go out promoting the board. They are, they've just never, gone out.
I just go out as a community member.
Yes.
And listen.
Yes, I mean, it's always been the boards, they've been very cautious because of the sensitivity of the type of work that you do. And not getting into a position where they've been compromised, even inadvertently. So they've been very cautious. Somebody asks you, are you on that board? Yeah, I am, and this is what we do. And that's been it. But going any deeper than that, at least from the feedback I've received over the last many years, that members have been very cautious about that.
Yeah, my thought was the resources that obviously the CPRB provide. Some people may not know.
Right.
Like especially the people who are coming freshly new to the city of Pittsburgh. I know the University of Pittsburgh has consolidated a map of all municipalities throughout Allegheny County that shows the complaint process when it talks about officer interactions. My thought process, especially about the community outreach plan, as far as specifically for us, was your staff obviously going on in the community, and not us as board members, obviously keeping the fraternization and objectivity down, especially if a complaint comes to us at the end of the day.
Right,
But that's
we
what my
do.
thought process was.
We do. I mean, we're out in the community. We also now have a community liaison that took us years to be able to deploy. Former investigator Sherry Bridget is now community liaison Sherry Bridget. And she attends every meeting she can possibly attend and engages and, provides the information necessary to explain what the board does, what kind of resource it is. She went to every national night up, the night out events that, even when they were rescheduled because of the weather, I know they were changed, many of them. We're out and about. I've been to enough community meetings that I think I should be a charter member to some of them. But we are out and about, and I don't know, I think I meant in the blurbs that I put to that idea, Mr. Davis. We've met with teachers. The teachers union is one of our biggest supporters and our biggest promoters in this city. Those teachers tell everybody about us. We've done high school assemblies. We've gone to the social studies department in the Pittsburgh Public. We met with the parochial school system. We've been to, I don't know what it is specifically you want. You want a report on how many community events each member went to? That's not going to be particularly a qualitative measurement.
No, I guess I just wanted to see your 2025, 2026 plan, written down community engagement of what the organization will try and attempt to do within those years, outside of the events from community partners. I just don't see I don't see like a written plan. Like, obviously you provide us written reports on caseloads information. Like, I just am a written type of person, and that's what I was just asking for, seeing if that has ever been done. Or I just don't understand.
So it has been done, yes. Has it been written down and presented as a formal plan? Mm-hmm. No.
Okay.
Because
Well, isn't that Sherry's job?
yes, Sherry was just recently, she just started this.
Right.
Again,
So-
operating from a place of being new, and so
Yeah.
my questions may feel or may, sound, like I don't want to say like attacking any type of staff or personnel. Again, because I'm new, I'm asking questions in the dark because I don't know if the answer has been solved or not.
May I also, just for frame of reference, to historically when our staff members go out, and now we have a liaison, but our investigators have been out, our executive director have been out, we used to get reports about the events that they would attend and gave feedback. And so we kind of tracked their activity because they would report to us during our monthly meetings some of the activity that they have been involved in. And additionally, there are events that are by way of invitation, but board members have been invited to attend. There have been events that the Ozarks have invited and said, these things are going on, would you like to attend? So there are opportunities that have been existed. No, there wasn't like a list, a calendar list of what was planned for the year. And I think because post-COVID, some things have shifted and changed, but historically we've had some of that. And also the comment about board members, I wanted to say too, when we're out and about, we make the choices to attend, and it is welcome that we get out there to do that. But we speak as one voice, as one board, not independently. And I have some of those burdens myself. I've been interviewed nationally, television, radio, especially when it comes to use of force, and they'll use my title and say my affiliation, but I have to be very careful to say, even though you're saying that, yes, I'm a board member, but it is me speaking on this behalf, not representative of the board. And so I think it is wise and good for us to have some level of participation out there as we see fit, sharing what we do. That's what gets the confidence of the people to know that we have this board here that is representing them, but just being careful about those things that we're not speaking on behalf of. We're just representatives of and participating with these type of activities. So that's what I want to share on those two topics. I think I'd like to see more community activity as we see fit. I think it's wise to do. So, but I don't know that I feel necessary that the staff needs to present. I just want to know they're engaged and where can we come alongside as well. But I think it's wise that you asked the question. I mean, how do the public know what we're doing and what we're about if we're not out there? You know?
I'd add to that too. I know when I came on, I guess I've been familiar with the board since its inception as a city resident, and coming on, I guess I had the idea that there might be more public engagement with the board, just knowing major incidents that might happen. And even on the time I've been here, I've seen the numbers and how they change and how the nature of some of the complaints have changed too. And I think one of the things I've seen is I think the public realizes that, all right, maybe some of the stuff that you might think based on an isolated incident isn't as significant as, or isn't as widespread as maybe one with the media might lead you to think. So I think at the end of the day, if the goal is like, are we comfortable that the community is aware of us? I think we can probably assess that to a degree. And to the degree people participate, whether that's virtually, coming in person, I don't know if that's indicative of whether or not they're aware of us or just that they're not that concerned with some of the things that might be happening. And ideally, maybe if certain cases come to that warrant that, I'm sure we might see that level of it. And I don't know, having never been to an in-person one before, I don't know if you've seen that over the years. Like, yes, certain cases that come up do garner some more public interest than others.
And also too, by way of reference, that's why the idea of, we used to, when we were always meeting in person, half of the meetings were here, half of the meetings were out in the public at various places. And even in doing that, we didn't see the degree of engagement from the public. And they would pick, I mean, they would strategize to figure out, to make sure we had coverage all over the city. And it's just one of those things we keep plugging along. You believe in the responsibility that we have as a board, but we didn't even see a lot of active engagement when we're going to the community out to reach them. Some participation, but not to the degree that I would have expected by the efforts that were put in place to try to make sure that happens.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Sounds like we need to work a little harder, and maybe once we decide to get out in the community, you mentioned next year we're going to be in the zones 2, 4, and 6. Promoting further, do we use Facebook, community groups on Facebook? Do we have city councilors promote those meetings?
We do. Our social media. Stephanie, do you have something to say?
Yeah, so as individuals, each one of us hit community meetings in our neighborhoods, and we report back. The one thing that we did together was we all went to the arts festival, and there was another outing we all did as a team. We go to Bloomfield, Little Italy, we wear our stuff, and people come up and talk to us, we hand out brochures. The only reason it has stopped is because of COVID. We started it back up last year. So we are very active, and as Beth said, Miss Bridget is more than on top of things.
Yeah. And I mean, we used to go out and leaflet whatever neighborhood we were coming into for a board meeting. The social media page, our announcements go out regularly. The postings are balanced because we do not want to be inflammatory. So that, you know, I mean, I've had responses, you know, like Facebook or even X messages coming back to me, you know, that aren't very pretty. But I will say, I'll respond. I'll say, okay, I'll meet you for coffee. Where? Oh, you get the date all set up, and guess what? 10 minutes before, I can't make it. Okay. Not me, the other person. We get a lot of that, but we won't play that out in public. It's just not. It besmirches your reputation. So we don't engage in that. All the announcements that we're supposed to make, we do meet the legal requirement for announcing, public notice. And the reality is that a lot of people that have criticisms to level at the board, they're not here either. They've never been here. So we can do what's reasonable and within our ability. And I'm not sure we're going to have much of a different response. People right now, this is kind of an altruistic thing. This is something that if you have a problem, you expect your electeds to take care of things like public safety, that once you've put them in place, you don't have to worry about this anymore. You can take care of your family, you can do what you need to do in your life. You've made your decision, this person's responsible. When that starts to crumble, or you have a lot of incidents that take away public trust and confidence in the government structure, then this becomes important again. And people will come. They'll come seeking help. They want assistance. Michelle Kirshner, who has been with us for 20, how many years? 24? 23? 22 years. And now, for the last several years, has been our intake person. So she's the gatekeeper. And she hears what people are calling about. And if they're calling the wrong jurisdiction and we can't help them in the city, she has full knowledge of where to refer that person to whatever municipality they're having a difficulty with. So we're not front and center for regular, normal, everyday people. And interjecting ourselves into their lives is not terribly easy to do. I can tell you from my own experience, however, that the local media market has given us a lot of exposure in terms of matters that are of public concern, and what are we going to do about it? And the answer is usually, well, we can't do anything about it, but best practices would say this or that or whatever. And after that, we get an influx of contacts. Many of us I'm often stopped on the street by strangers. What about this? What about that? So there's a lot of exposure that we have, but it's still not going to be enough for everybody to pull them in and say, you really need to understand what we do. They find us when they need us. And I can honestly say that people that, have a lot to say about us have never been here.
Is there any other questions or concerns? Thank Mr. Davis for bringing these up, and for my colleagues for responding, and the staff. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I do want to appreciate Mr. Davis's inquiries, because you were new, and hey, come in and let me find out what we're doing here. And I'm also reassured that from your responses that many of the things that he questioned are already being done and being addressed. So that was reassuring as well.
My only add too is that we came up in discussion a couple meetings ago, because I missed the last meeting, but I was very interested about the continuity of our leadership, and have reassurances for the board. I mean, I'm confident of the people who are in place, meaning from you, executive director, to our vice, I think that's our title, or assistant. I'm confident in, but it would be understood instead of just implied. That was one takeaway that I had, that do we know for sure about the continuity of our leadership if something was to happen, so we can continue to operate. And so that was not one of the listed items, but it was part of the discussion that was brought up, and that has been intriguing to me, being that I've been on the board for as long as I have. I hadn't even put much thought to that until it was brought up, and so I just want to ensure that, and not just imply that we have that. And I'm not asking for no major plan, that we just fully understand that if things were to happen, a change of employment or something else was to happen, was the continuity of our leadership.
You mean if I've collapsed right here?
Never want that, but I was trying to say it without saying it.
I know, you're kind.
The bad burrito plan.
That's
How about
one
that?
thing, we had such gentlemen on this board. Very gracious. Yes, of course, there is a procedure in city policy that I am happy to extract. I think I sent some of it around in the past, but I can extract it and prepare it for you to consider and adopt, that would just customize that procedure to our board. And I can assure you, if I have anything to do with it, I'm not going to leave you wondering what to do about it. I promise you. So I will do that, and maybe for the next meeting, at least circulate a customized process that is from the city but customized to us.
Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on to case review? Hearing none, we'll get a pretty big case review because, again, we had a couple months here. So hopefully everybody got a chance to read them, and I'm going to go through each of them and we'll go from there. So we've got 15 full investigations. So if I go too fast, just slow me down, and if you have a question about them at the end, just mark that number. Okay, first case, 162-24, 161-24, 155-24, 149-24, 140-24, 137-24, 134-24, 125-24 ED, 125/24 ED, 116-24, 106-24, 100-24, 093-24, 091-24, and 088-24. Are there any questions, comments?
Can we pull out 124 ED?
Okay. Your question?
Just to get clarity, I don't know if it was answered yet, but were these officers off duty or on duty at the time of their engagement with that event?
Peter, please, I can't see the. Tiffany, 124.
They were on duty, but I don't have it in front of me.
There's a lot of controversy about that. That is the incident, the alleged assassination attempt of a presidential candidate in Butler. And the issue was that they were representing the Bureau of Police. Whether they were there authorized or not is still a question. What supervisor was responsible for authorizing them to go? And then escorting was one thing, staying at the event was another. So far as we know, there were disciplinary actions taken. As a result of that, the motorcycle unit was broken up. It was busted up. There's no supervisor assigned to it, as I understand it now. They assigned them all to the downtown unit or sent them out, dispersed them to the zones. So where we used to have a discrete motorcycle unit, we don't anymore. They're all over the place. A lot of things happened after that.
But they were on duty. I mean, they were assigned that, right?
No, that's the controversy. And they are recognized as being there as Pittsburgh police officers. So we would have to say they were on duty because the chief made a public comment that they were going to be recognized as such, even though there's questions about how they got there in the first place. So the issue, it moves up to a supervisory issue. Who said they could go and who said they could stay? There are supervisors that were in that unit that were removed from that unit. I think there was a demotion. That demotion may not have stuck. The lieutenant and sergeant, they were pulled out of there. And I don't believe there's a sergeant or a lieutenant assigned to a discrete motorcycle unit anymore. So it's a yes and a no, Mr. Davis. It's yes, they were there as Pittsburgh police officers, but there's a lot more to the story.
And just for clarity, I don't know if you have the answer. What is the normal procedure for when the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police escorts a dignitary such as a presidential candidate or someone of that nature?
There's a dignitary protection unit in the Bureau. They have a standard process. They have to be requested. Somebody has to make an official law enforcement request. Like the Secret Service could ask the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police, would you please assist us with this? And they will do that. They can't just decide on their own. They're going to go and lend a hand to the Secret Service or to Pennsylvania State Police or on their own decide that mutual aid is needed and they're going to go and give it. There has to be an official request for that kind of an activity, for a dignitary protection or engagement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to further that, I'm presuming, but maybe I shouldn't, that in that request, they would specify what what type of services they were requesting.
Yes. And for how long?
So that was asked, so do we have a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation for those 15 cases for a full investigation.
Thank you, sir. Second?
Second.
Discussion, any other discussion, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We have 0 for 30-day extension, however, we have 2 that are unfounded, and that is case number 105-24 and 056-24. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We have 3 that were unsustainable. Case number 032-24, case number 162-23 ED, and case number 099-22. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And then I think the other 6 are just informational. And that's case number 063-24, case number 059-24, case number 058-24, case number 051-24, case number 010-23, and case number 020-22. I mean, so we don't need a motion for these, right? These are just informational.
We don't need a,
Correct?
we don't need a motion on those.
Right, I think it's just informational. All right, and then we have does anybody have any questions about these? Hearing none, we're going to dispense.
Some of them are out of jurisdiction, some are dismissed, resolved, some are dismissed, policy review.
Okay, yeah, they're not all just, there are some action points to these, Madam President.
Oh, okay. So we do need to take a vote, so may I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion?
On 02022, just curiosity, it says a policy review has been requested.
Number 020-22?
That had to do with the constable on a case being unavailable suddenly, and the principal in the case not being notified to appear at court. There was a broken link there, and we've had a few cases like that where the person had a court date but didn't know it because the constable never told them, and the constable was unavailable, or in one case I know the individual actually passed away. And so he was the case constable, there was no constable to tell this person to come to court. And so what was lacking was an internal control mechanism to assure that in such cases there was a backup plan. So that, and the Bureau did do that. They built into their policy now where there's, is it the, who's the crime, the person, the clerk? There's a tracking, the court liaison, that's it, yeah, a fancy word, huh? The court liaison now tracks those so that there's always, there's a backup if the original case constable there's somebody else who will also know about that. So if that original case constable is not available, the other party will make the notifications.
Thank you.
Is that a function of the courts or the Bureau?
Bureau. Bless you.
We still need to vote, or?
Yeah, that's the votes now. If there's any more questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We have two that are suspended. Case number 067-24 and 031-24. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
I do have the
Okay.
question. The recommendation is until October 2024, and we're making a motion in this meeting to authorize suspending until that date. I mean, is that, our next meeting is in November, so I mean, we're already at that date, so.
Supposed to be December 3rd, my apologies.
Okay.
I mean, what do we have, like, the
Amendment.
7 days or
Amendment December 3rd,
Go ahead.
2024, I'm sorry.
The
All right,
case
are
being
we ready?
suspended until your next meeting, December 3rd, 2024, rather than today's meeting, 10/22/24. A date change.
All right, so we'll make note of that. All right. Call for a vote, all in favor? Aye.
Did we accept the
Oh,
amendment?
I'm sorry, we have the motion, right?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept the change of the date from October to December 2024.
I'll second.
All righty, now, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And then we just have those continuing 9, the summaries of the 9. I don't know if we need to go through each and every one of them, but if someone, because we don't make a motion on these. So does anybody have any questions about any of these cases? All right, hearing none, that concludes our review of the cases for our October meeting. All right, so some general announcements. Our next meeting, again, remember this will now move to December 3rd and in chambers again. And hopefully I won't be under the weather and I'll be able to join you folks. It's been 4 years, I can't wait. But for those who can't, there will be a Zoom, and then it's, as you know, it's publicized, Twitter, our Facebook, and so on and so forth. Alrighty, I don't have the list in front of me, and I haven't been watching the social media, but is there anybody that is on the list for public comment?
Nobody has their hand up.
I think someone muted you guys, but it's okay.
There is one question. So there's a question in the audience from a Jamaica. What's the solution of lack of policing? Most crime rates aren't reported.
What's the solution to lack of policing? What was the second part?
Most crime rates aren't reported. So I guess they're talking about the numbers that were given out.
Well, I could just make a comment regarding, I mean, not even specific to Pittsburgh. This is a problem indicative of all over the country, just a lack of interest to go into public safety, specifically policing, and a lot of police departments are having, or a lot of agencies are having difficulty with filling their staffing. And so it's not unique to Pittsburgh. I think it's a climate thing that a lot of people just don't want to be policing. But we do have a bigger issue about what is adequate staffing for Pittsburgh, and it is wisdom to the question. And one goes hand in hand with the other. And so just in response, we don't have an answer for you, but just know it's a broader problem, not just with the city of Pittsburgh.
Thank you, sir. Other comments? I can't see the audience, but are the Ozarks here this week?
The Ozarks are with us, and no other comments in the audience.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, I want to thank everybody. And do I have a motion to adjourn at 7:17 p.m.?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See everybody in December in person at the city chambers. Thank you all.